Hello, thanks for clicking on this video. I'm Miss Kane and today we're going to be looking at the relevant background information necessary for the study of George Orwell's A Hanging at National 5. The videos in this series will include information that you will have covered in class, but it will be a useful revision tool if you happen to have been absent or missed any crucial piece of information for whatever reason. There will be additional information added in, so if you happen to have covered everything in class, there will be stuff in here for you as well. So, jumping into the content, we'll start off with a brief background to George Orwell and his most famous work. George Orwell was the pseudonym of the English writer Eric Arthur Blair. Blair was born on June 25th, 1903 in India to Richard Walmsley Blair, a Government of India employee in the Opium Department, and Ida Mabel Limousin. In 1904, Ida moved with Eric and his older sister Marjorie back to England to bring the children up there according to the Anglo-Indian custom. Richard Blair stayed in India. Eric completed his schooling when he left Eton in 1921 but did not go on to university. In 1922, Blair joined the Indian Imperial Police and served as a sub-divisional officer in Burma, which is relevant to the text that we are about to study. He resigned and returned to England in 1927. In 1928, Blair went to Paris in order to become a writer. After his money ran out, he became a dishwasher. He returned to England at the end of 1929 and became a tramp, roaming the English countryside. In 1932, Blair got a job that would give him time for writing as a teacher in a private school. His first book, Down and Out in Paris and London, was published under the pseudonym George Orwell in 1933. Orwell published his first novel, Burmese Days, in 1934. He also went to work in a bookshop in London. Orwell published a variety of novels, but it was with the book Animal Farm he became an overnight success. In February 1946, Orwell published critical essays. He left London to live on the island of Jura with his son and a nurse. There he began 1984 and grew ill. 1984 was published in June 1949 and was instantly a success. His work tends to focus on themes such as social injustice and an intense opposition to dictatorship. Orwell died on January 21st, 1950 and was buried in Oxfordshire, making him only 46 at the time of his death. The setting of this text is crucial to your understanding of the overall story. A Hanging is set in Burma. Orwell was there as a policeman, as Britain had colonised India and Burma as part of its empire. Therefore, A Hanging is Orwell's account of his time in the Indian Imperial Police and a reflection on one of the many legal executions witnessed by Orwell as a Chief of Justice. During this time as a British police officer in an Asian country, Orwell experienced firsthand the social inequalities present in a country ruled by a foreign power. Orwell's detailed observations of the prisoner and the events leading up to his eventual death illuminate the ordinary reality of death and highlight his strong anti-capital punishment sentiments. When producing a written piece of work, all writers will have a particular purpose in mind with which they wish to communicate to the reader. In A Hanging, Orwell makes a social comment about capital punishment. Orwell paints a wonderfully intense picture of the man condemned to death, the jailers walking away, and the dog's unpredictable actions amidst the solemn occasion. He also explores the execution's formality and how it allows the participants to automatically and thoughtlessly conduct their business. The condemned man's automatic action of sidestepping the puddle, important to one's own continued comfort later in the day, makes Orwell begin to think about the difference between being alive and being dead, and the horror of what is being done in killing the man. He is alive, his toenails are growing, his blood is pumping, yet he avoids wetting his feet in that moment, while the next moment he will be dead, gone from this world. Ultimately, Orwell contemplates how tradition and ritual prevent participants from thinking about their actions. Through his clever use of language techniques such as imagery, symbolism, tone and word choice, Orwell evokes the reader's sympathy for the prisoner's plight. As mentioned previously, one of Orwell's main aims is the exploration of social injustice. Orwell omits to mention the prisoner's crime as he does not want the reader to make any judgments about whether or not the death penalty was justified. By focusing solely on the process of killing another human being, Orwell exposes the brutal reality of capital punishment, which could arguably be his ultimate purpose. I've now included some questions that you should attempt to make sure you have fully absorbed all the information in this video. I now suggest that you pause the video, answer the questions, and press play when you are ready to go over your answers. Let's go over those answers now. So for question 1, I asked you to think about what issues was Orwell most interested in. Orwell was obviously most interested in social injustice and an intense opposition to dictatorships. For question number 2, I asked you to think about where a hanging is set and why that is significant. So a hanging is set in Burma, and it is significant because Orwell served in the Indian Imperial Police. The story is a first-hand account of a legal execution he was involved in. This is significant as it highlights the social inequalities present in a country ruled by a foreign power. Question number 3 asked you to think about what was Orwell's purpose in writing this piece. Orwell solely focused on the execution rather than the crime to highlight the brutal reality of capital punishment. And then for question number 4, you had to think about what is the prisoner's crime. The crime has been deliberately omitted so that the reader focuses on the disturbing reality of capital punishment rather than questioning whether or not it was deserved. So, hopefully that has given you a brief introduction to the background of a hanging. The next video in this series will be focusing on setting, primarily looking at weather and the prison itself. If you have found this information useful and you have been able to work along with it to help aid your revision, please give this a like so that we know to continue posting content like this for you. I hope you all have a fantastic week.